There has always been so much controversy and many unanswered questions around electric mountain bikes. Now, I've been riding e-bikes for the past 6 years, and today I'm going to explain to you the reality of owning an e-bike. The very first time that I got to ride an e-bike, what was my first impression? Well, it'd be difficult not to notice the weight difference between an electric bike and a normal bike. And your first thought with that is the weight is going to hold me back. However, if you give it time, you'll actually notice that the weight works to your advantage. A heavy bike is a very stable bike. First of all, when jumping, these bikes take quite a lot of input to make them move, which is brilliant if you make a mistake or if you're a beginner rider and your weight is slightly in the wrong position. The bike is not going to end up in an incorrect position, potentially making you crash. Also, when riding tech and downhill, a lot of the top downhill teams on bumpy sections and rough tracks will actually run lead to increase the weight on the bike down in the bottom bracket area. What this does, it stops the bike bouncing around and it creates something called traction, which is the bike being pulled down to the track. Now, the e-bikes have the weight with the battery and the motor already very low, so this creates stability, and stability creates confidence. The added weight offers more grip because it loads the suspension and the tyres up in such a positive way. A mountain bike achieves the most grip when the suspension and the tyres are compressed, because the tyre becomes wider, creating a bigger contact patch on the ground and therefore creating traction. Now, you can normally achieve this by running lower tyre pressures or braking very aggressively. The added weight of the e-bike only contributes to this in a positive way. Finally, e-bikes smash through anything in their way. If you're jumping in the wind, it's very unlikely that you will get affected. If you're riding a takeoff ramp which is unsmooth, so it's got a bump in it, then you're less likely to feel that on the e-bike. If you case it, you shouldn't bounce or bump around. It'll actually be a lot smoother than on a normal bike. And if you're riding tech sections, you generally just plow through it, which helps you to maintain speed. E-bikes are actually the perfect fitness tool, despite the fact that you have assistance, and this would make you think they're not good for fitness. I've recently been training for the Mega Avalanche downhill endurance race, and in doing my research, I've found out that these are perfect for zone 2 training. Zone 2 training is where you maintain a low heart rate, around 130 beats per minute, and there are so many positives to training like this. First of all, it's low intensity, so you can go for much longer. It's perfect for cardiovascular health because this heart rate range helps to strengthen the heart. There's also a lower risk of overtraining, because if you do a high intensity ride, then you might need a few days to recover, meaning that in a week you only get out a few times, whereas if you do zone 2, you can actually ride every day, so overall you're riding more consistently. And generally this just helps to build overall endurance. A lot of road cyclists, downhill racers, cross-country riders are all doing zone 2 training. It's quite funny really, because when I first got on an e-bike 6 years ago, I actually felt this but didn't know the science behind it, and it's only in doing the Mega Avalanche training that I've been learning about the different zones that you can train in. And what I can confirm by that is that my feeling on the bike and science align perfectly. Why are e-bikes so good for zone training then? Well, that is because you have different power modes on the bike which help you to control different variables. For example, if you're out on a ride and you come across uneven terrain or steep inclines, this is going to cause a spike in your heart rate, which on a normal bike you cannot control. In the past, zone training has typically been done on turbo trainers because you can set the resistance to be consistent, but being just sat indoors is so boring, and e-bikes allow you to manage these variables with the different power modes. You can make the ride as easy or as difficult as you want whilst riding your favourite trails and enjoying being outside. Having said that, if you stick the e-bike in turbo mode and just go for a ride, this probably isn't that good for fitness, but that is really good for fun. So with the different modes, you can really just choose whatever ride you want to do. E-bikes will make you a better rider, and that is because, as I just mentioned, you're able to save more energy, which means you're able to ride more, and more riding means not only is your fitness going to improve, but so are your skills. Let's just say, for example, with an e-bike, you're able to ride 5 out of 7 days in the week as opposed to 2 days, and you're able to do 10 laps on a trail instead of 5. This is more riding, which means you're able to practice more and your skills are only going to improve faster. You can also fit more sessions in throughout the week. Say you have a spare hour and you want to go to the local trails. On a normal bike, you might only get 1 or 2 laps and think, actually, it's not really worth it. Whereas with an e-bike, in a short period of time, you can get a lot of riding done. I want to find out what Cara's opinion is, because I know that she has found riding e-bikes super beneficial for her progression.
Having an e-bike to ride has really helped with my progression, because It's given me the confidence to ride jumps, drops, trails that I perhaps would have never ridden on a normal bike before. It's also allowed me to practice more as well. There's been times where I've been at a bike park and I've managed to get 2 laps in on the e-bike compared to someone riding a normal bike and they've managed to just get the 1 in. It's also helped me complete some pretty awesome challenges. We've done some epic rides, which with the e-bike it's made it possible, because I think with a normal bike I absolutely would not have stood a chance.
E-bikes create a level playing field. For example, when Cara first got into riding, I was already a pro, she was a beginner, and the e-bikes allowed us to go on bike rides and maintain the same pace. It's exactly the same when I go out for bike rides with my dad. I can turn my bike down, he can turn his bike up, or actually sometimes the other way around. And I have a cool story that I want to share with you guys. When I was at the Forest of Dean, I met a man who was in his late 70s. He cycled throughout his whole life, but he got to the age of 70 and he couldn't keep up with his mates anymore, so he decided to put the bike away until he reached 75 when he discovered e-bikes. Now he can cycle with that group again, go out with his mates, and he's absolutely loving it. If you simply just remove the battery, then this becomes a normal bike. Now that can be handy in certain scenarios. For example, traveling, you can't fly with a battery. I've flown all over the world with this bike and ridden contests by just simply removing the battery. You might also like riding bike parks with an uplift or a chairlift service. You can absolutely do that with a battery, but if you are finding it a little bit difficult to lift on and off the lift, simply remove the battery. Makes this whole process a little easier. For me, new innovations and new technology keep riding fresh. I've been riding for 20 years, and although I'd never get bored of mountain biking, new technology is certainly very welcome. When e-bikes come around, you could all of a sudden do new techniques and unlock new lines with the motor. For example, there's different ways you can use it when riding trials. You can do insane hill climbs which take a whole new skill set, and you can even ride upstairs. It's all been so positive so far, and when I'm talking about e-bikes, I do find it very difficult to find negatives. However, there are a few, and the first of those being battery life. Now, this is something that is never actually a problem for me personally, but it is something that's on your mind and something that when you have a normal bike, you don't have to think about. The added weight of the bike can be a hindrance at times. We just addressed this with the fact you can remove the battery in most situations. However, if you're lifting it onto a bike rack, onto the roof of your car, it's something to consider. And also if you're out on a bike ride and there's gates or little things to lift it over on the trail, the bike is heavier and sometimes can be a little bit of a hindrance. You have to be mindful of increased wear and tear. There's a lot of torque and power going through the drivetrain, and although a lot of these components are designed for e-bikes, I still believe that they will wear quicker than what they would under the load of a normal bike. Finally, technical gremlins. This is something I've never had issues with on my bikes. However, it is in the back of your mind. If a normal bike breaks, you can generally fix it with a spanner or a set of Allen keys. However, e-bikes, there's quite a lot of technology, electronics, motherboards, and they're problems that generally would have to go back to the manufacturer to be fixed. There we have it then. Those are the realities of owning an e-bike. There's a lot of positives and not so many negatives. I absolutely love it. If you haven't tried it, then you are missing out. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, leave your comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, ooh, I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it. Fuse like a magnet, lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. If the shit tastes sour, you should taste mine. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a